So we're here in Bradford, just come back from Bradford Zine Fair, and I've come across Shi Blank here, who was one of the founders of Singapore Zine Fair. Could you tell me about Singapore Zine Fair?
Well, this was like back in the 90s. So I was in a riot girl punk band. And what we did was we had like zines at the gigs that we then sell. And we could just like print lino t shirts as well. So you could do trades and stuff like that. Um, the first zine I saw was a zine, local zine. And it was strange because it was just like pictures of skateboarders, black and white. And I was like, hey, this isn't places that I frequent because I was a skateboarder as well. So I managed to get in touch with the person and said, I want to be a photographer. And the person was like, yeah, all right, sure, just take some photos of people skateboarding. And that's the first time I made a zine. So the first zine I made was with a friend, and it was called Specific Heat. And it's basically a zine about skateboarding in Singapore and the punk bands that we were in, just having fun, I suppose.
How long did Singapore Zine Fair run? And
The Zine Fair, okay, it was in conjunction with a festival that was made for just girls to be in a band. If you were a girl in a band, you were allowed to play in the festival, and that became Girl Fest. So Girl Fest and the zines. So that came about, I don't know, about 3, 4 years. But then everyone sort of grew up and became old and died or whatever. So it just sort of stopped. But the Girl Fest later on became Lady Fest, if you know about Lady Fest.
yeah,
Yeah, in the States. And that became like a, I don't know, association or something. But by then I left Singapore. So I came to the UK to study and I've been here ever since.
sure. So Singapore has a reputation for like both highly successful financial capitalism and also state authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Could see where would you situate yourself as a zine maker and I guess punk within that context?
It was a bit strange in that there was dichotomies in two different worlds, where there was the outside world where people were living in a place where you were ruled by fascists and you had no freedom of speech. But then there was this tiny little place in the middle of the city square where kids could just come in and have a riot, I suppose, and just sort of play gigs. So that was like a refuge from the frustrations that I felt in Singapore as a I don't know, second class citizen because the I'm part of a minority race and weren't exactly seen as people that would amount to anything.
Yeah. Um, so what you still making zines, so
Yeah.
and there's been this revival.
Yeah,
Um,
that's strange, isn't it? Because it's like something I did when I was a shitty little kid because it was I could vent my frustration out, and I didn't care if anyone bought the zines or they did. I mean, people did, and then there was this really nice community of people that sort of traded zines and sent me stuff to review or invited me to their gigs, and I just felt kind of validated as as a human being in this world because it didn't feel like I could amount to anything. But then this whole revival thing, just it's sort of weird feeling because it's like, yeah, I was there as a shitty kid, but now I'm an adult and I'm still doing shitty things. But I don't know. I think it's interesting to be in a space that you are free to explore, to do stuff. Because I'm doing my most recent zine is not the same as the zine that I did when I was a kid. I mean, I have more agency to do stuff. I feel like I'm able to share more personal thoughts. So the previous zines, when I was doing as a kid, it was more like uh, I was still shying away from my true self. Let's put it that way. So I'm trying to find my voice. I suppose it's taking a while, but hopefully I'll get there.
do you remember the first zine you ever read,
Uh, Gosh, I think it was
or early
F
zines you read
word
in
zine.
Singapore? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a zine called the F word zine. You could get it in Borders. Borders was this bookshop in Singapore. All the cool kids worked in Borders for some reason, and I remember reading the zine. It was just this black and white with a brown paperback cover,